Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Coast-to-Coast Combat Hour. I'm your host, Matthew Hawkins, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Ed Carbajal. And we are brought to you by AllAccessMMA.com. Check out AllAccessMMA.com for MMA articles and our podcast. Ed, how you doing, man?
Good. We didn't get to catch up on any current events and news, and lucky for us, we picked the perfect week to wrap everything up, and because there's a lot going on. So I don't know where you want to start. I mean, last week we had Chris Lytle on, which, by the way, my training partners were actually texting me about that. Like, a lot of folks were listening to that. That was a great get for us. And like, you know, when we grab old school guys like that, Doc Lucas was messaging us too about it and talking about how good it was. So I mean, that was if folks didn't check that out, check out last week with Chris Lytle.
Yeah, fun interview. Anytime you get a chance to talk to somebody, I mean, we said it to him on the air. I mean, he wasn't a UFC champion, but there's very few non-UFC champions that have the accolades that Chris Lytle has. So, I mean, just a total honor to be able to talk to him. And for old school geeks like us, it's obviously to hear stories and stuff about the past makes it cool. But yeah, I mean, so no guest this week, but like you said, there couldn't be a week that just surrounded by so much stuff, even with no UFC to look forward to in the near future here. But I say we just go back. Let's go back. What is about 10 days or so? Bellator 250. Let me get the number right. Bellator 254. That was Ilima-Lei Macfarlane looking to defend her title again for Bellator. Unfortunately for her, she fought another undefeated fighter, Juliana Velasquez, and Velasquez really had her number from start to finish, earning a unanimous decision, although semi-close on the cards, pretty much domination from start to finish. Little surprising to me, I guess. More surprising to see Ilima-Lei get so dominated. Not surprising to me that she lost. Anybody that's listened to me or known me over the last 20 years would know that everybody's time comes, and Bellator's 125-pound division is starting to load up with some really good talent. So, not sure how you saw it, but
I don't know if you caught any shadows of just like her reactions and stuff. I kind of, it was reminiscent to me of when Fedor picked up his first loss to Werdum. It was almost like watching her as she lost. She almost seemed, and I think she commented on it afterward. She almost seemed relieved to not be the champion anymore. I mean, I guess you know, with martial arts, and she's definitely a martial artist. We've seen her evolve through the years in Bellator and stuff like that. But I'm wondering, because, you know, like sometimes you get to a point that, I mean, like in martial arts, you hear it a lot. Losses are lessons, and I'm wondering if this was something that just kind of tapped her to say, hey, like okay, now I can focus on you know, something to evolve more, you know. I mean, because being I just feel like it can be an albatross to be undefeated for so long, or to be champion for so long. I mean, it's weird to think that, like, when I look back at Fedor and back then and seeing that with her now, it's just kind of like maybe I mean, maybe it'll be good for her evolution and longevity in her career, you know. I mean, I feel like the undefeated thing is it can be rough after a while.
So. Yeah, I mean, I can see that, and I understand it. And you bringing up Fedor, you know, it's weird for me to compare Ilima-Lei to Fedor, but I see what you're saying. The look on Fedor's face, or the feeling you kind of got, was like, okay, I lost. This is what it feels like to lose. You know, I no longer ever have to fight again, with the idea of me basically being an undefeated fighter in this invincible force. I can kind of just go out there and finish my career up. So I get it, and I'm glad you acknowledging Werdum as his first loss, after I know she retweeted today that his loss to Kosaka in Japan, which was a farce of a loss, but technically on his record.
But I mean, that one he avenged, though. That's why I don't really.
Yeah, no, I'm just giving you a hard time. Yeah. I felt like I saw that. I was like, kind of fake news. But did you notice Artem Lobov jumped into that thread? It was on Twitter. This day in MMA history.
Yeah.
Artem Lobov dropped in and gave like a 2-tweet, you know, 300, 400 word, whatever the limit is, you know, basically breakdown of how it wasn't really a loss, how it should have been considered a no contest. it was the greatest thing. Well, I mean, Lobov's had his moments, but I thought it was hilarious that of all the people, he's the one who jumped in to kind of defend Fedor and really broke it down in a way that I
Yeah.
appreciated. But getting back to Alimale, yeah, I think that this kind of now she's not the champion. I have no idea. I think she just signed a contract extension fairly recently. I feel like that's something we talked about on the show right around the time when it seemed like they had initially signed Chandler to one a couple years back. So I don't know how many fights she has, but this does take that pressure off. If she is interested now, kind of in going somewhere else, maybe that door opens up. Just because you don't have the championship, you're not as locked in. I also think, like you said, the pressure. We kind of saw it now. Rose Namajunas wasn't undefeated, but I think it's kind of widely known that she's. I don't think she's ducking title fights, but I think it was a relief to her for a while to not have the stress of having to deal with answering the media calls and just kind of being that poster person. Uh, it's got to be a tremendous amount of stress. I mean, no matter what, it's stressful enough to be a MMA fighter. You throw being a champion and then being undefeated on top of that. I can kind of see that. So I think she rebounds. I don't think this is like the end of Alimale at all. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a rematch. I don't know if it's a fight that she necessarily should rematch. She was pretty well beat. Um, I'd like to see a rematch with like maybe Alejandra Lara, kind of a number one contender or something. While another
I feel like her and Vita Artiga need to do it again too, just because
that makes a lot of sense. I was
yeah.
at that one, and that was the fight that ended by the cut.
Mhm.
Artega seems like she's kind of been on a slide since then, but or at least losing her last fight. Maybe not so much of a slide, but yeah, that one needs to happen. Like I said, the Lara fight again, another one that I attended was a really good fight, a good back and forth. That Alima ended up winning by submission eventually, but there's a lot of fights for her out there.
Yeah.
We still got the Hawaii thing. I mean, the whole COVID thing threw everything off because we
Yeah.
know damn well that if there was no COVID, this title fight would have been in Hawaii. Who knows how things change? Would she win
And
the fight?
everybody's training camp was probably. I mean, everyone's handled training and preparation differently because of the whole COVID situation. So, I mean, she's in Hawaii, but where does I forget where she trains? Doesn't she train somewhere like she doesn't?
Usually in San Diego. So I mean, she's
Yeah.
basically if she's in Hawaii, then Hawaii's been isolated this whole time. I mean, Hawaii's been basically closed, and in California, not a whole lot different. So probably not necessarily the two best states for her to try to be, you know, getting stuff under control and living any kind of normal life in order to have the right mental uh, level or wherever you want to say it to
Yeah.
go out there and compete like that. But my text going out basically where her time just came. It happens to every fighter. If you fight good enough fighters, you're going to lose, and that's that's basically what we saw. It was just a matter of time. Even if she would have
Yeah.
squeaked this one out, it was going to be her next fight or the fight after that. Somebody was going to have her number and be able to beat her. So,
Yeah.
but that's Alimale.
That was a
Again,
final event of the year too for Bellator, so we won't see them until I forget when they said they were coming back. February, maybe.
yeah, I'm guessing probably February, maybe late January. But again, all props to Juliana Velasquez. She moves to 11-0, so she kind of takes the throne over from Alimale in the exact same situation. I mean, Alimale was just 11-0 too before that loss. So you basically have just swapped number one contender for champion right now and the records. So we'll see how that unfolds. Right after that, that was Thursday night. Saturday, we got Friday was the BKFC, which we spoke about with Chris Lytle a little bit last week. Then Saturday was UFC 256, Figueiredo Moreno. Wow. You know, just to speak on the main event, which basically is one of the top. I hate getting into what's the fight of the year. There's this year we've had some amazing fights. So let's just say it was one of the top 5 fights of the year. Just two great fighters. And I've been on this show from day one, kind of bad mouthing the flyweights, and I'm not going to I'm not going to hide from the fact that I've said that. But this is a show. This was a friggin' show. If these fights, and take nothing away from Demetrius Johnson, perhaps Demetrius Johnson just didn't have he didn't have a Brandon Moreno, or he was just too much better than him. So maybe, but I didn't enjoy the Demetrius Johnson years. I'm
I did.
enjoying.
I've always liked the
I
flyweight
know, and a
division.
lot of people did. I get it. It wasn't my thing. But with that said, I'm
It's
digging
gonna be
this.
now. It's
I'm
gonna be
digging this.
now.
Yeah, as long
Listen,
as
listen.
Figueiredo, Moreno, Royval, Tim Elliott. I mean, as long as we've got that main core of dudes
Dude,
right now.
look at you. Like you said, you just mentioned a few of them. And then Jimmy Flick just threw himself in that mix. And I know he's on the event that we're going to get to with his late edition of Submission of the Year candidacy. But like you said, I mean, of the talking about of the year awards, I had to submit my choices for Sherdog this week, and I'm not going to give any. I mean, I'll probably be giving it away talking about this fight because for me, I had trouble. I actually had to rewatch Weili Zhang and Joanna because for me that was up until this fight that was the fight of the year for me. But then I was like, you know what? We had a winner, maybe not definitive because it was like split decision or whatever it was, but we had a winner. This fight. This fight. I haven't seen a fight in a long time. It's probably when I was into boxing heavily, and I know you watched the boxing too that we had, but I'm just like, yo, the last time I saw a fight end in a draw and I wasn't disappointed with it it's been a long time. And that fight, like even Daniel Cormier was like, I don't know who won. I can't pick who won. And I'm not for nothing, dude. I am completely on board. Flyweight division rematch with them too. I know it's gonna get run back at some point. Yeah, man. It's I love that fight. I already see that the UFC's pushing Brandon Moreno. They got him on some marketing stuff already. Like that's they've always been looking for their Mexican fighter. I mean, this is the guy. He's from Tijuana. He's he's just picked up English, and he talks about how he wants to emulate Julio Cesar Chavez, and it's like, dude, this is the guy. You want a guy for UFC with the Mexico branding. This is the guy, and I'm all aboard it, and I want to see that fight again. I and not for nothing. I became a fan of Davison Fajado too.
Yeah, I mean, I've there's been something about Moreno that I've enjoyed since his time on The Ultimate Fighter. I don't know if I think it's just his personality. I love that kind of free willing, just loving what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's refreshing to see somebody that is like I said, just doing what they love to do. And he's had some lows. I mean, he was basically cut from the UFC. The division was told, we're going to wrap this up, and the next thing you know, he's coming back and he's on on a big card with against Kai Kara France not that long ago, where he basically pulls an upset and reestablishes himself, and then he has the win over Royval, and he gets here. I thought it was great. Yeah, I can't think of many title fights draws. First of all, there's been very few draws, but the only other, when I think of a main event fight that kind of was like it ended, and you're like, you know what, if that's a draw, then cool. Was for me was like Bigfoot versus Mark Hunt the first time they fought, and that was a little soiled at the end because Bigfoot ended up testing positive for some PEDs or diuretics or whatever it was at the time. Vitamins. But that was a fight, and we've said it, like, I love it when there's a good close fight. I don't mind a draw. This fight was, I feel like when I was watching it, I was thinking Moreno. Obviously, that's not what the judges saw because the judges basically gave it to Figueiredo, and then you had the point deduction. So they saw it 3 rounds to 2 for Figueiredo. I was kind of leaning 3 rounds to 2 for Moreno. I don't know if there was, again, I was kind of pulling for him because I didn't expect him to put the show that he did on. As much as I've seen him perform, like in my mind, I thought we were kind of going to get another Alex Perez situation where we were probably going to see a younger kid kind of over his head a little too early, maybe, and make a mistake and get caught.
I mean, what an awesome story. I mean, Nolan King tweeted that night, like, remember that the UFC wanted to cut him at one point, and then I talked about here on this podcast when he was fighting Royval, like if he got the title, the whole thing of how he got pulled early from Ultimate Fighter. Like this guy is there's some. I mean, if you want to talk about if there's a fate for him in that division, it's there. He's definitely destined to get that strap. If it's not from Figueiredo, it's going to be from somebody. But damn it, like. Woo, that fight can't happen soon enough, man. I mean, I'm all on board, and I'll get me a Brandon Moreno t-shirt and the whole nine.
Yeah, and not to discredit Cain Velasquez or anything, and you being Mexican heritage, I got to imagine that like as much as you guys, the Mexican people liked Cain Velasquez, like you said, this is a brother coming up from Tijuana.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
like so that's going to carry some weight, and I live in San Diego. I mean, that's or close enough to San Diego where Tijuana is not far from me, and that's. I think it's cool. I think it opens up the door. Plus, it opens up the door for more events in San Diego, which I'm always open, always happy about. But
Oh yeah, if he gets a title and we get back to normal, man, you're gonna be all up in San Diego.
oh, he'll be yeah
Yeah,
he'll own San
yeah,
Diego and LA
yeah.
if he wins the title and the UFC markets him correctly.
Hmm.
That's and it seems like they're quick. These guys have forced the UFC's hand because the UFC didn't want to market these guys. The UFC
No,
wanted to get rid of the division, and I wasn't for people losing their jobs, but I kind of understood it because, like you said, you enjoyed the times. The numbers weren't there. People weren't buying the pay-per-views,
no.
so like the support wasn't there. As many people want to say, "Hey, I loved it. I loved it." Most 99% of the people who said they loved it wouldn't spend a penny to watch, you know, Demetrius Johnson in a pay-per-view main event, and that's the numbers are there. That doesn't take anything away from Demetrius Johnson. He's one of the greatest mixed martial artists we've ever seen, but like I said, maybe it was his mismatches, and obviously his mousetrap armbar was incredible, and he had his moments that were shining. But now I feel like this is the fight that opens up that division. This is the Stephan Bonner, Forrest Griffin fight for the flyweight division in the UFC right now. I think it's going to set it off. And my God, if these guys have a rematch and have any fight close to this, the level that these guys could potentially reach on Stardom now with UFC, now with the rumor of UFC going possibly to ABC
Yeah.
uh, early or mid January, um, that opens the door for
Well,
superstars.
I feel like that's them playing because we saw that night on. I think Bellator and DAZN are done. Um,
Correct.
when we were talking about 254, that was kind of a little bit trending news that night. And I know Scott Coker's waiting for DAZN to make a fucking move, but I mean, because they've held up their end, it's DAZN that hasn't really held up their end with anybody for that matter. But um, uh, I feel like because not they know when that's over, then CBS is going to be making moves with their sports, and so I think that's just them. We got to get to network first, and while they're waiting for this DAZN nonsense to end, let's make our move now and do one test card. So I mean, hey, it just goes to show you how much the sport's grown, and I mean, hey, competition is good for business. Somebody, I got a little shit for following the girl that tweeted it out, but somebody tweeted out something about one championship's numbers and how if all you watch is the UFC, then you're not really an MMA fan. And you and I are kind of always been, I mean, not about one, but like the UFC is not the entire sport. There's all these other. I mean, we've had LFA guys on here. We've had Bellator fighters. People from BKFC, like combat
Amateur
sports.
fighters,
Yeah,
BKFC, tough enough. Yeah, no,
yeah.
exactly.
So it's like like come on now, like the UFC finds their stars and all the Royvals and all these guys in these other promotions. So you kind of have to watch the sport. So that's why I liked what I forget what her name is, whatever she said. But so that being said, this is kind of like, I mean, this is something that you and I used to probably just fucking shoot the shit about like 10 years ago. We wouldn't think about, except for when, the Kimbo Slice thing when it was the Elite XC and all that. But that was great, and that was the numbers prove that works back then. So imagine now. I mean, imagine now on AB's Bellator, UFC, anybody on a regular network like that, it's gonna kill.
I would think I don't think we'll ever see the numbers that we once saw
Mm,
because it was such a spectacle and you
mm,
didn't have access to it. I mean, genuinely, the same person who's going to watch ABC if they really
mm.
wanted to watch UFC could probably just turn to ESPN. So
Yeah,
I do find it interesting. ABC would have been the last channel, last network channel I
yeah,
would have expected.
yeah,
Although it is tied obviously to ESPN and that whole conglomerate Disney.
yeah.
Um, I just it seems like that's like the family network. CBS is kind of like the mid family, but we still have football and stuff like that. And then Fox is generally the, hey, we're gonna shoot people out of a cannon
yeah,
and see
yeah,
if we
yeah.
can make it over the Grand Canyon and kind of shit like that.
Oddly enough, that was the one that featured a lot of celebrity boxing. Now we got all this
Uh,
fucking Paul
so,
bullshit happening.
we'll get into that sometime in the future if things unfold
Yeah,
like they're being rumored. But
yeah.
yeah,
Fuck that.
I mean,
Fuck that news.
I just think, yeah, it all comes to the UFC now. The rumor is right now that January 16th, according to Nolan King, who's reporting this for MMA Junkie, is that they're looking at the 16th of January on ABC, and it looks like the January 30th event that was scheduled has been canceled. So what that would lead me to believe is that they're going to look to like kind of stack a card. We're going to pull another card and we're going to stack this. If we're going to get ABC, even let's say the ABC only gives them 2 fights, they're going to have the 2 main events from those 2 nights be the 2 fights on that card. Is what I would guess. Now, with that said, we'll probably get Greg Hardy versus Volkov 2 and 3. But who knows?
Greg Hardy might not be on main cards anymore after last weekend. But
I started to think about that the other day. Do you think he's not on main card, or he's on the main cards because it keeps him away from ESPN, and it makes it where like somebody has to actually look him out, whether it's ESPN Plus or a pay-per-view? I started to wonder that because it seems has he been on big ESPN yet? Or has he only been on ESPN Plus and pay-per-views? I'd have to look back.
Yeah, you got to look back at his.
But I started to wonder that the other day because I was thinking the same thing. Like, why is this guy in the main card? And I'm like, well, if you're doing your prelims on ESPN, the last thing you probably want to do is end the prelims with Greg Hardy, and then expect that sports fan that is that hates his guts, that watches ESPN, to buy it. So that's just a thought that I had. But yeah, let's hope UFC. I mean, we're fans of the sport. I don't care. Anybody that can get on network television is something we're going to cheer for. Obviously, we're huge fans of the UFC, but hopefully we see that unfold. Before we get to this past UFC card, you mentioned DAZN. DAZN had the two big boxing matches back to back Friday and Saturday night that we spoke about 3-4 weeks ago with the Last Round podcast, gentlemen, about. On Friday night, Triple G picked up a TKO victory over Sharameta. Outclassed. Triple G looked tremendous, incredible shape. He was coming off a lackadaisical win where a lot of people thought he actually lost the decision in his previous bout. This one he left no doubt, and he was looking tuned up. If natural, he's been putting in some really, really good work, and I think he wanted to have a resume or something to basically send to the Canelo team to set up that third bout. Following night, Canelo fought Callum Smith. Canelo just did his thing. Smith came, survived, went 12 rounds. Canelo hit him with a lot of body shots. Just kept digging. Smith fought hard. He won a round, maybe 2, but a mismatch.
Well, he tore his bicep. His bicep was separated in midway through the fight. That was confirmed by UK Boxing, like immediately after the event.
Canelo or Smith tore his bicep?
Smith did.
Okay, that makes sense then.
Yeah.
I mean, no disrespect, the dude went 12 rounds with Canelo, and he was throwing punches the whole time. He threw a lot of punches. Canelo, he missed a lot, but he threw a lot too. So he's out there. He's putting himself out there. He just didn't turtle up and just take a beating for 12 rounds. He tried. He just didn't have the power to do it.
The thing with them, it's like if you put those names, if they're not fighting each other, it's kind of like, you know what I mean? It's almost like a WWE match where you know who's gonna win. If it's like The Rock versus you, then The Rock is going to be the guy that wins.
Yeah, no, I mean exactly, exactly. Yeah, if you're Iron Mike Sharp and
but I mean, so that's one of the things that's the problem with a lot. Like it's not like Wilder Fury. You know what I mean? Like that was like, oof. You know what I mean? And then
well, boxing does that a lot though. That's like that's the world of boxing. Squash match, huge mega fight. That seems like that because I missed the Joshua fight, and I don't know the gentleman that he really fought.
Pulev, yeah.
imagine it was kind of the same thing. It's like, why?
Yeah.
I mean, the UFC can do it too, but generally you're fighting like, in the
M-
event.
MM MMA just has more unpredictability than boxing does. Because
Well, like if MMA was boxing or UFC was boxing, then and we didn't speak about it, but Ferguson wouldn't have fought Oliveira. Ferguson would have fought like
Michael
some up
Chandler
and
or somebody.
coming. No, he wouldn't even fought Michael Chandler. He would have fought somebody who was like the road champion from Japan or something like that. He would
Yeah,
have fought.
but everybody thought Ferguson would have waxed Oliveira, and look what happened. I mean, Oliveira completely. We've never seen Ferguson lose
I know,
like
but
that.
that fight would have never happened in boxing because you never
Yeah.
would have had two guys that were like on the brink of just stardom or getting that mega fight. It just doesn't seem like it would have happened. But
Hmm.
that's neither here nor there. But Canelo looked great, picked up the massive win. Triple G fight's got to happen again. I thought Triple G won both fights. I think most people believe he won the first fight. The second fight, I think, is about split 50-50. A lot of people
Yeah.
think, Canelo won, and it was a close fight. But that's the fight that's got to happen. I mean, we've got this heavyweight, gauntlet of fights going on, but that's the lighter weight fight. Or I should say like the middleweight fight. It's not the Crawfords and the Errol Spence fight that obviously would be mega, but I don't know. Fun to watch boxing. Play by play was goddamn terrible. DAZN is like fifth rate right now, so I don't think that they're going to be around the U.S. market very long.
No, yeah,
With
get out
coming
of
out with
here.
that product. I mean, I guess I saw people commenting that the audio went out, and they were like, "Can we have the option to not listen to these guys at all?
Yeah,
Can we just watch the boxing instead of?"
yeah,
But anyways, and then we also had some big news for free agent signing. You'd think this was the basketball off season with all these guys changing
yeah,
locations. Um, I don't know if we talked about Rumble Johnson, but Rumble Johnson signed with Bellator. That came as quite a surprise to me. I hadn't heard any rumors about Rumble Johnson going to
yeah.
Bellator.
Rumble, Yoel, Anthony Pettis. Now, just
Yeah,
before we started
and then
recording.
Yoel signs. Well, Anthony Pettis hasn't officially signed. He said he's leaving the UFC, but I mean, his brother fights for Bellator. It
Yeah,
makes
that's true.
it makes the most sense in the world. Again, though, maybe PFL offers him a chance to win $1 million for fighting.
I feel like fighters are probably not too like putting their feet in the PFL wall, and I've covered them a lot, so I'm probably pissing off some PFL people right now. But it is what it is, man. You guys dropped the ball this year. I mean,
I know, but
look at what happened to Kayla Harrison. I mean, she's
yeah. Oh,
fighting
Harrison,
Invicta, fighting Titan FC, and you're gonna have her back, but you had to let her do something, otherwise she was gonna sue your ass. So
well, that's the thing with like Verdun. Like, why I mean, I guess Verdun he didn't compete at submission grappling on Sunday, did he? He was initially scheduled
he
to,
was supposed to, yeah,
but he didn't. So, I mean, talk about Verdun signing with PFL. The dude's already like 43, 44. God only knows when PFL is going to actually start. I mean, they can say they're going to start in April, but I mean, we haven't seen a PFL bout since what, New Year's of,
New Year's Eve. Yeah,
New Year's
that's it.
Eve.
Yeah,
We're coming up on a year since the PFL bout. That's a long time to put everybody on hold, and to think that you're just going to pick up with the same momentum that you had. PFL was doing pretty well, through ESPN, and I had casual fans and people that just kind of asking me about these ESPN fights and them getting to know the fighters, and to disappear for a year can't be great. So
no.
that'll be interesting. Speaking about the opposite of disappearing for a year, did you, obviously you've seen it, and I know you saw it because you messaged me about it, the video that Dana White put out, basically going after the media, the big propaganda piece?
Oh yeah, we got to talk. I guess everyone's talking about that.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny. I shared it and I said I can't wait to see the back and forth over this one, because not only did he call out specific people, but he put the red stripe across their names. He
highlighted the names.
He straight up, yeah. I gotta steal it from Miro from Decent Mary, rah, rah, to the media. You know what I mean? He literally was just like, "Fuck all of you guys that were trying to be up my ass," and he put their names with the red line through it. That was the funniest shit. I don't know why he went. The thing that stood out to me, I was like, he really went in hard on Brian Campbell from CBS, and I don't know if that's because of the Bellator CBS connection, or why not go after Luke Thomas? Because Luke Thomas, I mean, Luke Thomas doesn't really talk about stuff like that. Luke Thomas does more. I mean, I know he tweets a lot of stuff about politics and COVID and stuff like that, but when he does his content, it's mainly about martial arts fighting and analytical stuff and matchmaking stuff like that. It's never overly critical of just the stuff that we saw April, May of putting events on or whatever. And at the end of the day, I mean, we all fucking watched anyway. So I I don't know why he did that. It was either to pat himself on the back or just to kind of give it a 2020 fu to all those people listed in that video. But I knew it was going to make for internet comedy MMA gold, and I was like, I love it. I'm going to sit back and watch. So
yeah, I mean, I think it's exactly what we probably should have all expect right now.
He ain't mad at us, so I don't give a fuck.
Oh man, I'm watching it. I'm waiting for somebody to pop up, and not that we're going to show up on that video, but
we didn't. But here's the thing: when that was happening, and okay, if you have questions about moving forward, I mean, you and I don't know enough to fucking talk about it. But what did we do? We brought Doc Lucas on.
Correct.
Somebody that does know a thing or two about it, and we asked him our questions, and that was a pretty popular episode of ours this year too. But it's like, which we got to have back to see if he's got a report card for how things went. But you know what I mean? Like, I think we don't talk out our asses, or we don't try to stir anything up. We try to bring information to whoever listens to or watches this, and I think that's the right way to go about it. I mean, some people, not for nothing, some people did go at Dana a little. It's almost to the point that if I was their boss or something, I was like, hey, what are we going to cover if they don't fucking do anything? You know what I mean?
That's the kind of the stance that we took. Is we wanted fights. We didn't want people to die, but we wanted fights. And if the UFC could do it safe, which with some common sense seemed like it was something that could be done, then why not do it? And our bread's not buttered by the UFC. We have day jobs, if we've got if our income was relied on the UFC and they blackballed us, then obviously,
and that's the other thing too. Like you're talking about there's how many fighters. I mean, for all the shit and all the media people reacting to that were targeted in that video, how many fighters shared it saying thank you? Like, look at Lauren Murphy was like, I had the best year of my life and I bought a house and this and that. So it's like, come on, man. I mean, not everyone's going to be happy. Someone's going to be pissed off.
No, and my thing is like a lot of the media guys jump, and it's the world we live in today where people are accusing people of trying to kill people by not wearing masks, or Dana White's willing to sacrifice human lives to put on. Like, let's drop the bullshit. Like, we know he's a businessman trying to get keep his business going, just like a lot of people.
Yeah,
I criticize Dana White as much as anybody, but
I hate ESPN Plus.
He pulled it off. Like, in the long run, whether people thought they were being, all high and mighty about it, Dana White turned out to kind of be right. So, like, again, like, would I have made the video and done the spike in the end zone and done the dance? No, but it's Dana White, what do we expect from him? And a lot of the guys in the video, at least a couple of the guys in the video, are guys he doesn't like anyway. So this was kind of like I don't know much about the Campbell guy. I'm not a Luke Thomas fan.
I mean, I sat next to him at a Bellator event once, and I tried to, introduce myself to him, and I wouldn't say he was the friendliest guy. He was kind of a dick.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm honest, they might be nice guys. Luke Thomas might be a great guy, but like I just don't enjoy his.
Luke Thomas, I've talked to. He's cool. I like him.
Again, he may be, but I just the way he presents his angle to the world of sports is not necessarily what I'm looking for when I go on Twitter or when I just want to look at MMA. MMA is my fucking out, I don't, and that goes across the board for not just him and not just people I agree with or disagree with. Politics come across my board. I'm quick to mute people. I'm not, that's not what I'm in Twitter for. If I want, I got plenty of family I can argue with. I don't need to argue on Twitter. You know what I mean?
I hear you.
Like this. So, But with that said, I just thought it was funny, and like I think I probably had the same stance as you is where it's like, let's just watch the fireworks go, and they went, man. You had people getting defensive, and I mean, I just feel like, you know what, if I'm a reporter or I'm a writer or a podcaster, and he went after me, then like I have my video of what I said. If I disagree with what Dana White's calling me out for, then I have a platform. I can go on my platform and I can write about it, or I can, you know, I can counter his argument, you know, and if I'm right, I'm right. If I look like a jackass for saying Dana White was going to wipe out half the U.S. population by having a fight in Jacksonville, then maybe I deserve to look like a moron, you know. But again, I don't know all the backstory behind everything. I just thought it was entertaining and like the most Dana White
Hey,
thing that I would
I mean,
expect.
yeah, that's why we refer to Doc Lucas and folks that know what the fuck
Yeah,
we're talking
you know,
about.
and
So,
yeah, exactly. And we're not. We were just fans who wanted to see the fights go. We had no idea
I
the
mean,
ins and outs.
we had our we listed we talked about our pros and cons on this podcast
Uh-huh.
and how things should go forward or backward or net. But at the end of it, we both said we're gonna watch it if it's going though, right? And we're like, yeah, fuck yeah,
Of
we're
course,
gonna watch, yeah.
of course,
So
and we're gonna
no, we're not
support
gonna be
it.
hypocrites. Yeah, we're not gonna be fucking
No,
hypocrites.
exactly. We're, you know, we I don't think we missed a show since, you know, we as a combined unit, we haven't missed a show since the thing. So we've been fighting through this too, just to try to keep a schedule going. And this is small time nothing, you know, like
Yeah,
you got companies, you know, Dana White still owns a company where, you know, he's got to answer to people, and Dana White might be harsh to a lot of people, but you know, as somebody who's a former business owner, I know that, you know, the conversations coming down to Dana White aren't exactly friendly. He's hearing it too. You
yeah.
know, anybody that has to answer to a boss knows that, you know, shit goes downhill, and you know, and Dana White's the spokesman, and he's got to put his face out there and deal with it, and he gets the perks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and thank God nothing happened. I mean, that's I think
I mean, they
that's
had obviously a string of. I mean,
yeah,
I
we
lost
didn't get a
count,
positive test, but that
but
was going to
nobody
happen.
died. Yeah, yeah, nobody
Correct.
died from it.
Yeah.
Or I mean,
Yeah.
obviously,
Yeah.
I know some weird things happened with Jeff Neal afterwards. He said some stuff on his Instagram about having a heart issue and his eye, he couldn't see out of an eye, and so before his fight. So I mean, that's a little questionable. But other than that, I mean, listen, you know, he could have said I can't fight, but he still went in there. So I mean, at the end of these days, I mean, we've talked to enough fighters on this show, and they're not they're built differently than us. They want to do this. This is what they've dropped everything for this, whether it be a job or school or whatever it is. That this is what they're putting 100% of their focus into. So if they can do it and there was a way for them to do it, then I'm glad they got a way to do it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've been working throughout this whole thing. I've never been tested. I've never had my temperature checked. I don't work in a bubble, you know? So, like, the fact that they were able to do that to a sense, you know, the amount of testing that these people got, like,
Mhm.
yeah, Lauren Murphy talking about it. I mean, people still got to try to make a living. The fact that some people were able to come out of this and be better off is something that we should be happy about. Um, I mean, I don't know if anybody that fought that's worse off now, other than, you know, maybe having to have a surgery or something. But I mean, these
That's I
guys,
think Cody Garbrandt's having some type of like
Cody
COVID
Gar, yeah,
bug.
but I mean, does you know, like Cody Garbrandt would have went to Lowe's and got COVID, like we wouldn't be talking about Lowe's trying to murder half the population. Like, you know what I mean? Like you could get it anywhere.
Yeah.
Like to me, like you're probably less likely to get it actually in a bubble where they're testing people.
Mhm.
I mean, we saw it in the NBA. The NBA did it great. They didn't. I don't think they had a single positive test. UFC did, but UFC is bringing in people from multiple countries, and you know, like there's a lot more going on, and it's not a bubble where they owned the entire town for 3 months and put everybody there and told them you can't leave. You know, they're bringing people in and quarantining them. So, I mean, I give Dana White credit for pulling it off. I think it was. I think it was big for the sport. I think it was big for a lot of us as fans who needed something. A couple of those weekends when the world was not great, but again, not necessarily my thing to do with the spike and the touchdown dance. But I'll laugh and I'll continue to laugh at people's reaction to it, and
Mhm.
um, that's just the way I look at it. But yeah, so that was kind of the craziest of this. We had the UFC event
Mhm.
last weekend, which got sidetracked on. Podcast alumni Stephen Wonderboy Thompson continues to work his way back up the welterweight ladder after his upset loss to Anthony Pettis.
Well,
Uh,
yeah, today's Tuesday. I don't know if there any update came out about his knee because it's like the fourth round. His knee like gave out on him or something, and he was. I mean, he still fought and obviously
Well,
won, but something's going on with his knee. I hope it's nothing that's going to keep him from doing what he wants to do in that division because he looked great.
yeah, no, I mean he dominated Jeff Neal, a fighter that a lot of people thought was on the precipice of taking somebody like Wonder Boy out and really establishing themselves as a force in that division. But Thompson, whitewashed him from start to finish, and on all the scorecards and looked great. Speaking of people that looked great, Jose Aldo. Um, picked up a unanimous decision win over Marlon Vera. Fight that I wasn't necessarily so sure he was going to win.
Yeah,
I felt like obviously he's a
yeah.
better fighter
All,
historically.
all my picks were for that fight. So.
Yeah, probably good we didn't do picks for this
Mm,
fight because yeah, the,
mm.
the three big ones that really I had my eye on. Well, I would have picked Thompson. The other two, I'm not so sure. But Aldo picks up a big win. Uh, he needed it. Uh, he's coming off a title shot loss, but also a loss prior to that to Marlon Moraes.
Mm.
Marlon Moraes now, the paradigm has shifted now, and he's on the downside of a run right now after Corey Sandhagen took
You
him
know,
out.
I didn't know that he left Almeida's camp, the Mark Henry Almeida connection out here in Jersey. So I'm one. I mean, Halwani tweeted that out, and I was like, oh, how come I didn't know about that? Because I usually follow all those guys. And he tweeted out, not only did that happen, but obviously since that happened, that's where he's been picking up his L's. So I'm wondering, I'm like, maybe that wasn't the move. I hope it wasn't. If it's burn bridges, I mean, you need to mend those bridges, brother, and get back to the Jersey connection over here, Jersey Mafia.
Yeah, no, I mean, in October he was finished by Sandhagen, and then this past weekend Rob Font
Man,
had a performance of his career, um, knocking out Marias also in the first round of this fight. Be interesting to see. I mean, it just goes to show. I mean, Marias was robbed in a sense of another title fight after he beat Aldo. Uh, but it just shows that I mean, when you get that opportunity, if you don't take it, things can go downhill real quick. And now he finds himself probably a half dozen fights away from a title. In a real competitive world, realistically, he could get a title shot coming off two losses. We've seen that multiple times.
mm-hmm.
But in a real competitive sporting event, we're probably looking at 5 or 6 fights now for Marias. These are young enough, but that's a hell of a gauntlet when you got to fight your way back up all the way up the rankings in the UFC.
Yeah, I mean, I know Aldo's talking about wanting to fight TJ Dillashaw next, or he doesn't seem to want any titles. He doesn't. I know he said he doesn't want to do 5-round fights. So,
Dillashaw fight sounds good to me.
yeah,
I think a 5-round fight, even if it's not a title fight, I think that's a main event fight that I'd like to see 5 rounds of. But that sounds like a fun fight. I look forward to Dillashaw coming back. I think he just continues to add to the
yeah.
division.
I mean, I know we already kind of talked about Greg Hardy and the Marcin Tybura, but and we hinted at the Anthony Pettis news about, but he was the featured fight on the ESPN portion against Alex Morano, and that fight, I mean, he looked like he had some trouble in the first round, but he stayed calm, cool, collected, and then he was able to pull off a really good victory in that fight. I mean, some nice moves. I was kind of impressed with him. I feel like afterward he said he wants to go back to 155, and he even wanted a rematch with Ferguson. But now we're seeing this free agency stuff. So who knows if it's that or maybe they were like, listen, we got to make some cuts, and he was one of the cuts because there are supposed to be cutting like 60 to 80 fighters. So maybe it was a conversation. They were like, yeah, if you want, and then come back later, you're young enough. So who knows?
Yeah, it's a shame that the UFC is probably going to cut a lot of guys who they shouldn't cut.
Yeah.
And keep, that's one of the downsides to this. We're kind of getting that wave that we got of the Ultimate Fighter. The first couple Ultimate Fighters were really cool because you were like, okay, these are all fresh talent, a lot of good fighters, and then all of a sudden you started to realize, well, like the guy who finished 5th on the Ultimate Fighter just took, Dan Henderson's spot on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to get that now, unfortunately, with the Contender Series. especially because I don't necessarily believe all the UFC's numbers that Dana White put in that video. I can't imagine the numbers being as good as they are. I mean, we have no access to them.
You
But if
want
the
to know
number,
what's funny about that? At the end of that video, he puts all their pictures, and he was like, "Wrong" with their name.
big old stamp. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not so sure that I believe all those numbers because you would think to me that if a company was just making record-breaking profits, you wouldn't let Yoel Romero, Rumble Johnson, Anthony Pettis walk out the door to make room for six guys you can pay $5,000 to come, or 10,000 or 12, whatever the minimum is now, coming off the Contender Series. So, I mean, I think that that's what we're going to start to see, which is sad, but at the same time, spread the talent out. I mean, if Bellator signs Pettis, you know, although on the downside, I mean, Pettis is a big name. You know, he can draw, and you get a Pettis brothers card. Maybe they do an event in Milwaukee or something. I mean,
Hey, I would have liked if Anthony stayed with if he stayed with the UFC, and you'd have one brother, UFC, the other Bellator. It would have been nice to see, but it is what it is, man. If he winds up there, that'd be cool. But I mean, maybe he wants to jump at a shot at $1 million if the PFL got it for him. I feel like they blew their wad on Loughlane, and now they got Clarissa Shields there too. So I don't know
well, I
where they're
mean,
getting their money from, not doing events, but
there's fun fights for him anywhere he goes. I mean, even
yeah.
if he ended up in one or something, I mean, I don't think anybody would not watch him and Eddie Alvarez. I mean, that's a cool fight. PFL just is the tournament. Obviously, Bellator's got their division. We'll see. We'll see what kind of interest or how much money Bellator's got. I mean, they just obviously probably shelled out a decent amount for Rumble and Romero. Two older guys, but two guys who are going to set up some tremendous matches. I mean, I don't know about you, but even before Yoel got in there, I saw Rumble. I'm thinking, my God, Rumble versus Musasi is.
You see Corey Anderson put up that funny video, that meme?
No, but
It's hilarious. He put up a video of some kid eating cookies, and the cookie, like he's about to eat a cookie, and the kid says, Corey Anderson. He pulls a cookie out, and the cookie says Bellator light heavyweight division, and then some other kid comes in to eat the cookie, and it says Rumble Johnson, and the kid's like, "Man, I can't have nothing in this house," and he throws it down. It's on Corey Anderson's Instagram. It's pretty funny. I found it hilarious.
no, I mean, you forget Corey Anderson's there. I mean, you've got some fights that could get kind of cool over there in Bellator. So we'll see. But again, Wonder Boy picks up the big win. Aldo, Pettis, and Tabura, Font, the big names on the upper part of the card. You mentioned Jimmy Flick earlier. He is one of the guys coming up.
That's gonna be the dude, man. He's gonna be a contender at flyweight. I'm telling you.
He's going old school like Ramiro Sato throwing up friggin' flying triangles and stuff.
That was beautiful. I mean, he throws the left high kick, gets his leg caught, and then just immediately jumps up because he's got the head and the arm right there in the middle. I mean, those little dudes can get away with doing the full flying triangles too, because they don't have to worry about landing on themselves being too heavy and Plus, I mean, I don't know how good I've only been in a UFC cage. The last time I saw you in Vegas was the last time I was in a UFC cage when they had the one set up back when they used to do fan expos the right way. So, but I remember. I mean, that they're kind of well patterned. They're not like freaking pro wrestling rings. So
no, you don't want to just take a fall on it. It's not, it's not spring loaded or anything. But it was, Jillian Robertson, although she lost her fight, she tried to you caught her. She tried a flying armbar, damn near got it too. So it'd be interesting. A couple creative, submission attempts and one super successful one.
Yeah, I mean that was great. So he actually goes for. You could tell Jimmy Flick is super. I mean his ground game is on point because when they hit the ground, Durden, he puts his arm on the other side of Flick to kind of like, because the triangle, your arm has to be across for the choke to happen. So he puts his arm on Flick's hip, and Flick immediately starts attacking that arm. There's stuff you can do to that arm. So he's like, I got to get it out of there, which of course brings it to where he didn't want it to be in the first place. And as soon as he does that, Flick makes the angle, and just made it super tight. I loved it. I love the setup. I mean, I watched him win the LFA title, so to see him tear it up in the UFC, I mean, I'm looking forward to him. That'd be a nice fight. I mean, not for nothing. I mean, I Royval was on Twitter and I asked him how his shoulder was. He didn't answer me, but maybe you could reach out to him because I know you're the one that got him on the podcast. But that's a fight I'd like to see. Him and Jimmy Flick would be another barn burner.
Yeah, it's just more of those flyweight fights. I mean,
yeah.
I never thought I'd say it, but that might be to look forward to right now.
Yeah.
I think we're getting close to wrapping up here. I'm going to throw out all of our info here, and then everybody listening and viewing, pay attention after I'm finished. Ed's got a few words about some sad news in the world of MMA. So fans can follow us. The podcast, Coast to Coast Combat Hour, at Combat Hour on Twitter, Coast to Coast Combat Hour on Instagram. You can follow me, Matthew Hawkins, at MMA Hawk 21 on Twitter and Instagram. Follow Ed at Carbazol on Twitter, Carb Beerzol on Instagram, and Old Head Carb on Twitch. Ed, the floor is yours.
Yeah, and just real quick, make sure you get your MMA news over at allaccessmma.com for up and coming news and this podcast. So before we close out before Christmas, I mean, I don't want to make it too. I don't want to leave us on a sour note too much. I mean, the time on this earth is it can be taken from you in an instant. Last week, at the end of the week, we got some news that Sergio Da Silva passed away. Passed away Wednesday night. The news kind of got floated around. I had to confirm for the article on SureDog of confirming his death. Sergio Da Silva fought in CFFC Bellator, passed away at 34 years old last week. He was laid to rest this week. So, make sure you spend the time and reach out to those if it's folks you haven't talked to in a while. Sergio Da Silva, when you hear his name, if you do a search for him, the stuff that, he got himself in some trouble in 2017. I spoke to him about that literally months ago. It's on this YouTube channel. You can go back and look at it for an article with my MMA news because when we were speaking, he was looking to make another run at his fighting career. So it sucks that he's no longer with us, and my condolences go out to the Da Silva family and his friends. And, I just wanted to dedicate this episode to him. He was a solid dude. I liked him, talking about New York pizza and all the other funny shit that we used to talk about. And, I was hoping to get a few rounds with him on the mats, but I guess that'll have to wait until the next one, but that's that.
Everybody stay safe and have a Merry Christmas. Thanks.
Merry Christmas. Peace.